The thing about Canada is, it's one thing for you to like the apartment, it's another thing for them to approve you. Don't try to go above your means. One bedroom now can even be like 2,300. Everything's by the grace of God. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Evan. If it's your first time stopping over, see my face, getting on the channel, thanks so much for coming. You're very much welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about finding accommodation in Canada, just different types of accommodation, where you can find accommodation, what things that you should basically look out for. I hope it's helpful. If it's something you're interested in, even if you're not interested, just keep watching. First of all, finding accommodation in Canada can be tedious, so it's not always as easy, and to be honest, it just depends. For you it might be easy, for someone else it might not be easy. It just depends on what happens. Anyway, for me, I would say like 5 things that you should try to consider when you're trying to find an accommodation. The first thing is the province that you'd like to stay. So if you're coming for school, if you're coming in as PR, you're coming as a worker, you know, what kind of province do you intend to live in? First of all, if it's a school, what's the province of the school? If it's PR, if it's not the provincial nomination routes that you did, if it's just express entry, federal skilled worker program and stuff that you did, you can pretty much be in any province that you choose. But if it's the provincial nomination route that you chose, you have to go to the province that invited you to apply or nominated you. So know the province that you want to live in, want to stay in, and kind of research the province. Know like cost of living in terms of like the rent, taxes. Like I know Alberta tax is like 5% if I'm not wrong, so that's that's really good. You're going to enjoy, but of course like the winter is like much worse over there. But it's just depending on where you're going, what you're going to do. So know the province. Ontario of course is expensive, British Columbia is expensive, like Saskatchewan I don't think is as expensive as Ontario. So know the province that you're going to, and that will filter your search basically. The second thing I would say definitely is your budget. What is your budget? What can you easily afford without having to struggle, right? So if you're in here as a student, like for example, if you don't get a job on time, would you still be comfortable paying that much rent? If you're a worker, look at your income and see how much you can afford for the rent. So don't try to go above your means. Don't say you want to live like a lavish luxurious condo lifestyle when of course you don't have the budget for it. It's just going to be a struggle. And in here in Canada you pay rent per month. Where I'm coming from, like Nigeria, I'm from Nigeria, you pay yearly. So people come from Nigeria, it might be different, because of course in Nigeria once you pay for a year, sometimes you pay 2 years, you don't have to worry about rent for a year or 2 years. But here you have to pay per month, so make sure you have the money to pay for the rent, because they don't hear please here or something like that. Anyway, you pay a rent here monthly, so make sure you check within your budget, right? So if you're using a realtor, let the realtor know your budget, let them know what you can afford, what you cannot afford, and work with that. The next point I will make is your preferences. There are different types of housing in Canada. There is the apartment and condo building. So it's just, I'll put a picture here, it's just a tall building, and each person you get an apartment in that whole building. You share some facilities, like it could have gym, it could have like a party room, it could have pool, just different things, but you share there's some shared spaces, like the facilities. But of course you have your own apartment. Some of them you still have to pay utilities. Some utilities come with it. Some you have to pay the full utilities, that's like electricity, heat, water. Some they'll probably you pay for maybe one of them, while some others you pay all 3. And it's usually like in a nice area. With this as well, it depends on what you want, your preference. Would you like to like share with someone? So you can get like a 2-bedroom apartment, maybe you and your friend or a colleague or classmate, whatever. You guys can just split it, or you can just get a 1-bedroom. If you want to stay by yourself, you can get one bedroom. There's also like a studio apartment. It's going to be really small, literally everything is within reach. In a studio apartment, you can get 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. So you can either get it for yourself or your family, like if you're coming in as PR, or you can get it just for yourself, right? Or you can get it and share with a friend. So those are like apartment condo buildings. There is also like shared house, so it's a whole house, so something like maybe 5 bedrooms and you're sharing. It's kind of common more with students, right? So like a housing that's close to your school, instead of you splitting or getting an apartment, you can, rent a room in that house. So it's a whole house, 5 bedroom, 4 bedroom, and maybe 3 bedroom. But I know usually it's like lots of bedrooms in there, like, and you're going to get a room. Of course, you share spaces like the kitchen. Sometimes you might have to share a bathroom. It just depends on, your preference. I would not advise to, but it depends on your preference and like what the housing is like. You can get the master bedroom, which has like an ensuite bathroom as well, so you have everything to your space, and then you just probably share the kitchen and living area. So that's like shared housing. It's kind of common with students as well. With the shared house as well, sometimes the utilities already included in the rent, right? And I didn't even talk about for the apartment condo building. The apartment and condo buildings, it depends on where you're renting. In like Ontario, maybe like Toronto, 1 bedroom now can even be like $2,300, $2,100, $2,000, but it's pricey. Let's just say maybe from like 1.8, 1.9 upward, basically, for apartment condo buildings. For like the shared housing, maybe for your room, you're probably paying, depends on the area as well, you can pay like, $800, $600 a month, $900, $1,100, $1,000. It depends on, like, that's just the range, right? But like with the apartment and condo buildings, of course, if you're splitting the apartment with maybe your friends, so maybe it's like a 2 bedroom apartment, if the rent is like $2,000, you guys will pay like $1,000 each, and probably of course share like utility bills and stuff like that. So that might be cheaper for you if you still want to live in like apartment and condo buildings, but you feel like it's too much for you. The price, like the rent price, if you find someone that you can share with, you guys can get like 2 bedroom or 3 bedrooms and just split that together. If you don't want to stay in like a shared housing. Another type of housing is, I'm just still talking about preferences. So another type of housing is basement. Some people don't like staying in basement. I have not lived in a basement before, but there are actually some basements that are really, really, really good. The issue is that some basements are, because it's kind of like underground, they don't have lots of windows and lights coming in, and during the winter it can be like depressing for people, especially if they're just coming, missing their family and all of that stuff. So some people don't really like the basement, and it can get really, 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 really cold, right? Some basements, some landlords, already furnish the place, so there's bed, there's couch, there's TV and all of that. All you're bringing is your clothes and stuff, and sometimes utilities are included with the rent as well. You're probably going to be sharing the utilities with the landlord, right? There's some basements as well that have a separate entrance from the landlord, while there's some basements that is the same entrance, you're just going to go straight downstairs while the landlord moves around the house, right? Some have kitchen. Like a basement can really look pretty, and some basements can really not be so pretty. The basement is basically like a whole house, but like the way the houses are built here, you have like a basement down, so you can literally go downstairs. Right? It's not really common in Nigeria. I don't think there's any house that has basements in Nigeria. I might be wrong, but yeah, basically, and it can really be a lot of space. So if you find a very good one, not bad, and it can also be affordable as well. Let's say depends on the area, to be honest. Like I said, I don't know much of other provinces except Ontario, because I've only lived in Ontario. But I think like it's cheaper in other provinces, like accommodation, as compared to Ontario and British Columbia. So for basement rent, depends on where you're looking at going, but maybe kind of the same with like shared housing. I might be wrong, do some more research, but like maybe 800 you can find for 600, maybe till 1100 or 1200. I don't think you'll be up to 1200, at least I don't think so. It depends. Like I said, some basements look really nice, it's well furnished, everything, like couch, your bed, everything. You probably just have to get bedding set and bring your clothes, and that'll be it. So yeah, So basically that's for basements. Another option is Airbnb. Of course, this cannot be long term because it will be very expensive. It's just, if you're coming in here, you don't really have any set accommodation in place, you can book an Airbnb before you land and just go straight there from the airport. Sometimes you can actually extend your Airbnb. Some Airbnbs, it's kind of you're living with the landlord as well, so maybe you can get Airbnbs like for a room, they're just sharing their room, so like they're renting a room basically. Or you can get a whole space for yourself. So it just depends if your landlord is there, and if you don't find accommodation maybe like after the month, you can definitely, I know some people that talk to their landlord and they like basically extended their stay, but it might get expensive in the long run. So I don't think you should bank on staying in Airbnb for a long time, but of course you never know what can happen, and it's just good to find where you can lay your head at least for a while till you get settled. So that's the Airbnb option. It's pretty much going to be expensive. I'm going to put a link to the Airbnb website in the description box, so if you do want to check with the dates, because you have to set a date and put like locations that you're looking at, Toronto, different places that you want to stay, and put it there. It will bring out a list of housing or Airbnb places available for booking, and then you choose the one that fits your price. It's not a set price, it just depends on the price the landlord wants to charge, either for a room. Of course, if you're renting just the room, it's going to be cheaper than if you're getting a whole space for yourself. Now the last accommodation is campus accommodation. This one is for students, right? Usually with shared rooms and amenities like laundry. Probably, I don't know if you, I think for the campus accommodation you can also have a roommate, right? Or it can be by your just a room for yourself, but you probably might share a bathroom, or you have to share the laundry space. You have to share the amenities as well, like if there's a study area and all of those kind of things like that. That might be good for you if you're a student, you're just coming, you're young, you don't really know much about what's going on. I haven't lived on campus before, so I don't really know how it goes, but I think if you just speak to your school on that, they will give you the pricing, and I don't think it's cheap, right? I don't think it's cheap either. It can be expensive. You probably pay that with your fees, so maybe like $10,000 a year, something like that. So that's like an option as well. So now that you know different types of housing, either you get apartment or condo buildings, or shared housing, like a whole house with like different people staying in the house. So basically renting the room and maybe like a bathroom. Or you get basement, or you get an Airbnb, or you stay on campus. That's going to be for students. So basically with your budget, you know where, you also know your preference as well, your budget and your preference, but your budget will basically drive how much you can afford for a rent. Because you're coming here the first time, you may or may not have a job on hand, and rent might be your biggest expense, to be honest, as a newcomer. So you don't want to really go overboard and start struggling at the end of the day. So know your preference, know your budget. That's really important, and also know the province that you want to stay, because those three will help you filter what you need, or know how to filter how you can get an accommodation that suits you best. The final thing I'll say you should consider is proximity. So this can mean different things to different people. So it could be proximity to school, proximity to work. For example, if you stay in places that getting a car is a necessity, right? So places like Calgary, I know the transit is not the best as it is in Toronto, so you probably would definitely need to get a car, because Ubers can get really expensive. So you would want to get an accommodation that's close to your school, that's close to work. That's if you don't have a car. Even if you have a car, you don't want to drive hours, like long hours, to get to your final destination. So make sure as you're checking, I'm obviously guessing if you're looking for accommodation, you probably have a school already, that you're processing, or you have a job, or you're PR, but you kind of know the place where you want to stay. So search, you can put on Google Maps. You don't have to be here, just put Google Maps, or just go on Google distance between this place to this place, and just see the car driving time and also the transits, that's the bus driving time as well. So if you don't already have a car, if you're not going to get a car until a couple months, you might want to really check that bus transit because if a place that someone like Oshawa now, the transit is not the best, right? In Toronto it's not bad, so Toronto is good, right? So Saskatchewan I don't think is the best. Calgary might not also be the best. So if you're going to those kind of places, you definitely will want to save some money, like put a car budget as part of your plan, right? So you can get a car. It doesn't have to be like luxurious car, just something take you from point A to point B, because Ubers can get really expensive. So just make sure you check proximity to places that you'd also want to go, and not only to schools or work, also to like the grocery stores, to like the malls, places around where you can go. If you know you're not getting a car, and if you're staying around maybe Ontario, let's say Toronto, get somewhere that the transit is not, it's not going to take you 1 hour to get to the mall or 1 hour to get to a grocery store, although I don't think it will. You should definitely have like stores around you where you can walk to, or it's just going to be one bus stop to the place. So proximity is very important, so you don't you don't stay in the house and you're like every time you have to go out is like a chore. It's going to, during the summer it might not be bad, but during the winter you will probably regret the decision. So just look out for those things. Now I want to talk about accommodation requirements. These can be different things for different people, of course. The first thing is they do require deposits. So normally the normal deposit is 2 months rent. So like they will ask for first month and last month's rent. But if you're a newcomer, they might ask for much more. This is mainly for like apartment buildings, condo buildings. If you're, of course, staying on campus, I think you pay that as part of your fees. If it's a basement, you probably, it depends. They might just ask you for 2 months, 3 months. I don't know, it depends on the landlord. But I know if some apartment and condo buildings are very strict, especially if you're new, you don't have a job yet, they need to make sure that you're going to be able to pay your rent and not like just run off. So they can ask for, the normal standard is 2 months, first month and last month, but there's sometimes they will ask for 6 months rent, some will ask for 12 months rent, some will ask for 3 months rent. It just depends on on what they feel like, or whatever they feel like at that point in time. But just know that if you're a newcomer, just have substantial amount of money ready to spend on accommodation, because it can get tough. Another thing is sometimes they may require a guarantor to sign. So if you have a friend, family, cousin, whoever it is who can sign for you, basically to attest that in any case you default payments, that person is going to be held responsible. So they want someone to hold if anything happens. So this is also mainly for newcomers, and I think even regardless if you're a newcomer, it's just part of some of their requirements for certain apartment buildings or condo. Even for basements, because for a basement they can also ask you to get a guarantor, just a quick letter from somebody that is here and has lived here for a while, saying that they can attest to you, and if anything happens they should call them. So basically that's what the guarantor is for. And sometimes they ask for details of the guarantor, like their letter of employment, their address, maybe utility bills, just some sort of information from them, just to be sure that the guarantor as well is able to like cover for any defaults that you may make. For you as well, they might ask for a letter of employment. Of course, if you're new here, you can just show them your PR card and stuff, and that's why they probably ask you for much more than just 2 months rent, right? So but if you do have letter of employment, you can show them the letter of employment, you can show them your pay slips, pay stubs. Sometimes they require credit check as well, so they want to check your credit history. Of course, if you're new, you do not have any credit history, and this is also where your guarantor can come in place, because they can ask for the guarantor's credit history as well as maybe their bank statement or pay slips or letter of employment or whatever it is. So just probably find somebody that and to be honest, it's not every time. Sometimes they don't even bother asking for a guarantor, they will just give you. Everything is by the grace of God. Those are just some of the accommodation requirements that I know that they usually ask over here. Now let me talk about where you can find accommodation. Number one, Kijiji. I haven't personally used Kijiji, but I know a lot of people talk about Kijiji. You can find accommodation, you can find cars, you can find ride share that will take you to one place to another, for example, Toronto to Windsor. Basically, you can find a lot of things on Kijiji, so check kijiji.ca definitely. I'm going to put all the links of where you can get these accommodations in my description box, so you can check my description box for the links to the websites. So Kijiji is number one. Facebook Marketplace is also a good place where you can find mostly basements. You can get basements there. Sometimes you can actually get like apartments, because I've seen some of them, they'll put like the apartments pictures and all of that stuff, and they'll put the price, so you contact them if you're interested, and then you can book like a viewing and go there and see the place before you proceed with applying for the place. So Facebook Marketplace is also a place where you can find basements and apartment buildings, and also even the shared housing, especially even the shared housing, I've seen that as well. So like all those 5 bedrooms where you can have 5 different students or 5 different people living in the house, or 4 bedrooms, however it is, 3 bedrooms, it depends. So you can find that on Facebook Marketplace as well. Airbnb, I've mentioned this as well. I'm going to put the link in the description box, so you can book weeks or months ahead before you even enter Canada. You can book for that, and the price depends on the landlord and what the space is like. If you're just booking for the room, of course it's going to be cheaper than if you're booking the entire space. Rentals.ca also is a place where you can find accommodation. Rentals.ca, Rent Panda is also a place that you can find any form of accommodation, even apartment buildings. There is also condos.ca, there's realtor.ca, and there's one as well, word of mouth. I found mine by word of mouth, not really kind of word of mouth. I come to this building where I'm at, I came to visit my friend, and I really like the place. Like, she took me around. I was like, oh, if I'm ever looking for a place to rent, whenever I'm moving out, I'll definitely check out this place. And I did, and I got it. So that's like another option. You can get a place from a friend. For example, if you have a friend that is already sharing, someone's like, oh, there's one more space, do you want to come? So that's it. So networking is actually good. Word of mouth works as well. Some tips I'll give you on accommodation: be very patient. Be very, very, very patient. It can take a long time. It can be stressful, it can be crazy, because the thing about Canada is one thing for you to like the apartment or the place, is another thing for them to approve you to come, especially for apartment buildings. For basements and stuff, of course the person also has to approve you. If you give them all the details, they'll say yes or no, basically. So it can be very stressful, doing several viewings, or it's way above your budget, or for the one within your budget, you probably will find one that you really like. It can be a lot. So just be very patient, and just know that it will definitely work out in the end. Another thing I'll say is save money and rent within your budget. Rent within your budget, like rent within. I can't overemphasize that. You don't want to be struggling. You don't want to be like looking for where the next rent is going to come from. So just make sure you're saving before you finally get the place. If you're on your way to come to Canada, just as you're preparing and packing your bags, have your savings for accommodation, because that's one big thing. Of course, you're coming here with a lot of load. You're not going to sleep on the streets. You have to sleep somewhere. So yeah, have patience. Spirit of patience, let's come upon you, and save within your budget. Save and rent within your budget. The last thing I would say is it's okay to start small. I mean, you can start in the basement, stay for a couple of months, and then move over to an apartment building, or start sharing with somebody, and then after a couple of months move to your own space, right? You don't always have to, don't overstress or overstretch yourself as well. From my own experience, I came in here, I stayed with my brother for kind of like 2 years, and then I already said how I found the space. I came to visit my friend from school. We met from school. We met at school, and then I liked this place. So when I was ready to move, this was like the first place that I applied. This was actually the only place I applied to, and I got it. So that was like my own story, basically. But when I came to Canada, I stayed in like like an Airbnb place provided by the school. So yeah, I stayed there. That was during the pandemic, so that's how it happened. Anyway, I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Ask me any questions you have about accommodation, and I'll be happy to help. I'll be happy to help. If I don't know the answer, I'll direct you to where you can get it. But yeah, leave me any questions. Where would you like to stay? Or if you're currently in Canada, what kind of accommodation are you staying right now? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.